Hey guys, welcome back to the Noble Broker Podcast. I am your co-host, Jonathan Lickstein, here with my co-host, Nathan Kletsnick. What was that? I guess we're shooting him up today. Either way, let's shoot it, Nate. So what's going on in your world?
Nada, Jonathan. What's going on in your world?
There's a little bit of things happening. Just got back from...
A little bit of things?
A few things. Yes, maybe. There's a few things going on in the world, and I just returned from the NAR National Conference in Boston.
Awesome.
Which was very interesting. Got to run a 5K in 30-degree weather. It was surprisingly more comfortable.
Did you do it in under an hour?
I did it in 32 minutes.
While you were away doing a 5K, we also did our own 5K.
Yeah, tell me about that. Why?
We did it for the Alzheimer's Association. We do that walk every single year. We raised close to $10,000. We're not done raising money for them yet, but it was awesome. We had a phenomenal turnout, maybe 20, 25 of those staff members, agents, and I took my family out there. Of course, my 6-year-old son was complaining that it was a 5K. I told him, it's a half mile. 20 minutes into it, he's like, Daddy, when are we done? But it was a phenomenal turnout. We raised a lot of money for a great cause.
For sure, and that's one of the partner organizations that we support here at Location. So awesome to see the turnout and the fundraise. Everybody was willing to contribute out of their own pockets.
Yeah, we did well. It was good. We got a lot of notoriety for our efforts last year, and it was great to see it all come back together for 12 months later. So
yeah, so giving back is something that's big and it's important to you, especially when it hits home. So we partner with a couple of organizations, right? And everyone's always looking for a way to give back to their community and how to get more involved and ingrained with the individual population. And things like this are a great idea. Well, let's talk about local events, maybe agents and companies and businesses getting involved. Why would a company or an agent want to be involved with a community event, whether it's for a charity or something like the Pompano Seafood Festival?
I mean, there's so many different reasons, but if anyone's ever looking to find purpose or a greater sense of responsibility in the work that they're doing, I mean, starting with your community or giving back to me is the easiest way of doing that. As you are well aware, I've been on the board for Morning Day Community Solutions for years now, and the thing I love most about that organization is how many other nonprofits they help. So it's a nonprofit to help other nonprofits, and it's all local community based. So for me, it can be challenging whether you're a CPA or a lawyer, a realtor. Finding purpose and meaning in your work can be challenging at times. You're stuck in a cycle. You may find different levels of success, but you feel unfulfilled. And for me, giving back and setting that tone for our organization to give back has been pretty meaningful.
And it's interesting when you have a passion behind something, whether it's a charitable organization or a local community, you're able to connect and network with other people who live in that area, number one. But number two, share that same passion. That's why they're there.
Yeah.
And you're always looking for a way to start a new relationship. And that starts with conversation. And it's easy to have conversation.
Of course. I always say do it for the right reason. And, one of the phenomenal benefits of it is you'll get business from it too. Not only are you going to get a rewarding experience, it's going to help your business grow. And it becomes more rewarding for sure.
Yeah, you always hear professionals or real estate agents and insurance agents and anyone that's really an independent contractor that has to kind of market their own network, looking for ways to meet more people. And when you're doing something that you love and you have a passion behind, it just happens naturally. I always talk about, I'm a dad, you're a dad. We're involved in our kids' youth athletic careers that hopefully go somewhere, but most likely won't. But anyhow, you get to meet other people in the same position, other parents who are there for their kids. You build a relationship based on your personal interactions, and you never know what will come out of it.
Absolutely. They see the passion that you have for your family. It creates a lot of like-minded synergies, and you see where it goes from there. Sure. Speaking of that, what is the overall temperament in the real estate market right now? Between our agents, you just got back from NAR, you were saying, how do you feel about the market? How do you feel the realtors are performing? I know that we've been in a down cycle for a little while now, and anytime we're in that, I mean, there's huge opportunity that emerge, but at the same time, we have to coach a lot of agents on how to not just get through their business financially, but also mentally. What is the temperament out there?
So this conference, I've been going to these for several years now, since pre-COVID actually. My first year going to the NAR conference was COVID, and it was supposed to be in New Orleans, and it got moved to virtual, and that was a unique experience. But the trend that you've kind of seen is when this whole lawsuit stuff came about last year, And you go to a conference then, everyone was very down. It was very depressing. It was kind of doom and gloom, as you would hear from speaking with an agent anywhere. The positivity was very, very big. It was very apparent during this conference. Everyone's having these conversations on how the changes are going for them. And everyone's on the same page that it's not been a difficult transition. The conversations with consumers, buyers, and sellers about compensation have been very easy, and very few people are really hesitating on getting that done, whether it's the buyer representation agreement or a seller and how they can compensate the other party to bring a ready, willing, and able buyer. So it was a much more positive conference than I'd experienced even in May or November last year. Seeing positivity and more of looking forward rather than what are we dealing with right now, which is a really nice change. So as we're leading into 2025, most of the intriguing conversations, in my opinion, had to do with advocacy and what they're doing on the national level to promote programs for consumers to have access to representation, fighting some laws that were out there that pertain to increases on property taxes and business rent taxes, things along those lines, and keeping affordability down for home buyers and home sellers, because there is no National Association of Home Buyers, there's no National Association of Home Sellers. NAR is there to represent them on the advocacy level. But really, when you're looking at the economic outlook, that was extremely positive. Over the last year, we've seen a big increase in inventory. We have some stats we can talk about, but you've seen a big increase in inventory. And what that generally means historically is using supply and demand. You have a large supply and a decrease in demand, prices would generally drop. But what's been really positive is the average home sale price isn't really dropping. The median.
They've been holding on pretty strong. I mean, I've definitely seen some price reductions on people that need to move a little quicker, but the overall value seemed to be holding strong, which honestly, after 24 months of being in such a slow market, I'm surprised to see.
I am too. The outlook for 2025 is good. I mean, you see the Fed.
Yeah, it kind of feels like we're at the cusp of coming back up out of the pit, in the cycle.
Right. When it comes to volume of transactions, I'll say I agree with you wholeheartedly there. It's consumer confidence is increasing, which is going to drive transactions. Even though we know the Fed rate doesn't directly correlate to what interest rates are, it definitely affects consumer confidence. And when they hear the news that Fed has dropped things a quarter of a point, or 25 bips, whatever you want to determine that, consumer confidence is up, that things are softening, inflation's decreasing down to where the government wants it to be. So purchase applications and buyer offers with financing start increasing. So I think it's really positive getting into 2025. And NAR's economist, Lawrence Yun, I really enjoyed listening to him. But he's really optimistic about 2025 when this time last year, he was not.
Yeah, that sounds phenomenal. I mean, I just hope that we can continue to find ways to help more people or home buyers get into homes. Obviously, affordability has been a huge issue, but we not only advocate for buyers and sellers, we advocate for realtors, right? That's the majority of what you're doing in your service. So, here at Location, you and I, we've always been steadfast at if we can put more money into our agents' pockets, if they are earning a good living, they will be happy and they'll stay with Location, right? That's the whole idea. And it's always painful when you get in these market cycles and you see that agents are struggling, and which many agents across the board, industry-wide, have been. But one thing I've noticed is our retention rate in these hard times has actually increased or decreased. Increased. It's been better. It's been better. It's been better, and I think it speaks the volumes to our support staff, you, me, our leadership team as a resource to everyone. That was one thing that surprised me. When I talked to other brokers of large companies, there was a little concern there that there may be a mass exodus after the NAR settlement issues, the market conditions, and I feel like the realtors in general lately have been so resilient, and it makes it fun. But let's dig into some of the stats that you share with me. So these are for Florida, right? Yeah, median home price last month. Price per homes in Florida was $403,500. You know the difference between median and average, right? People always get those confused. Mm-hmm. Median means that half of the homes that sold were over $403,000, half of them were below $403,000. That's kind of surprising. Where are all these homes under $400,000?
Well, I mean, that's taking into consideration condos, that's taking into consideration townhomes.
This is everything.
Right, this is all sales of properties individually, not broken down into categories. I bet if we separated that out and we went into single family homes, it'd be significantly higher than 400,000.
Of course. Our average home sale price, actually our average sale price in the state of Florida in general was over 700,000. I think it was right around 740,000 in the last 9 months. So and that's average though.
And you see that as a trend going forward and on the national level even. When you look at the thresholds for FHA, conventional and jumbo loans, as those trickle up, you get to understanding kind of where the market value is for a first-time home buyer to get into a new home.
Everything's going up.
And it's gone way up.
So sales volume, this is last month, 26,864 homes sold in Florida. That says it's a 14% decrease over last year. 26,000 homes in a single month? Am I reading that right?
That is correct.
That seems like a lot. I mean, Broward County, I think when I looked at that was 1,800. I mean, I guess that's small, but in the Tri-County area, I would have thought we would have had a bigger market share than that.
Well, we were closer to 30,000 in September of 2023.
Right.
So
how many licensed real estate professionals are there in the state of Florida?
I think it's
Full and part-time.
just shy of 250,000.
So 250,000 people last month were out there fighting for 26,000 deals.
Yes and no. So take that 250,000, separate that out to residential practitioners, commercial practitioners, and then some that
Very part-time.
correct. So you think about this: Florida Realtors is 220,000. So 220,000 realtors in the state of Florida selling 26,000 homes.
Yeah, and that's only 1 month.
Correct.
To your point that you just said, the inventory in Florida last month rose by 30.6% compared to what it was last year, year over year.
Right.
Up 30%. That is a warm welcome to people that have been sitting on the sidelines looking for something to buy. I mean, so many people have just been seeing that. We're looking at the same inventory over and over. Like a 3-month home search, they see maybe 1 or 2 new homes that pop up that are even close to their criteria. So that's welcome news. We'll definitely need inventory.
During the pandemic, I mean, we all know that feeding frenzy that was out there where buyers were competing against themselves over and above asking price, waiving inspection periods, paying $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 over appraisal price just because inventory was so low and interest rates were so low that everyone wanted to get into a home and lock in that rate for their 30-year mortgage. Some even went down to 15 because the rates were so low. But as inventory has increased, we've now solved that problem with not having enough options, having too much competition on individual properties. You're still hearing multiple offers on properties right now, but it's only that new listing on the market that's turnkey ready, really shows well, priced well, etc. A lot of these price reductions we're seeing are on people chasing the market that are trying to get valuations that we had a year or 2 ago or that they thought they could get during the pandemic, and now they're having to come back down to reality. And I know your mentality with that when you were working with sellers on price reductions. Many do these small trickle downs, but what's your mentality on that?
They just chase the market. I think it depends on your scenario, but if you need to sell, you need to sell.
Right.
And the market speaks for itself. I think it's really hard to underprice a property, especially when you have inventory like this, or very low inventory. If there's 10 buyers sitting on the sideline looking for it, you could drop your home price 50,000, 100,000 below, and then suddenly you'll have a multiple offer situation. So it's really hard to underprice a home.
Yeah, we probably should have broken these stats down a little bit more because, like Southeast Florida, I feel like we're in this little bubble here where there's just so much traffic and demand, regardless of the type of market that we're in, that we operate on kind of a different scale.
For sure.
Yeah, when it comes to price.
I mean, there's the keys are going to operate very differently. I mean, Florida is a very diverse and geographically diverse state. So, again, these are statewide stats, but it's still interesting to go through. So, Florida spent a median 63 days on the market last month. That's an increase of 20 days compared to last month, the previous year. So that suggests a lower pace in home sales. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I felt it. You've seen me walking around. The last 3-4 months have been the slowest I've seen in a very long time. Why do you think that is? I mean, I know a lot of people wanted to wait for the election. I think there's, kind of that end of summer, beginning, fall kind of sluggish period. Kids are back in school. There's historically been somewhat of a dip there. It's hard because when we went through COVID, all rules went out the window, right? And we operated in that environment for 2 or 3 years where nothing made sense historically speaking. So we may be going back into a combination of what is a normal market and also a little sluggish because of economic news, election season. Is there anything else I'm missing there?
No, I don't think so. Not really. With the increase in inventory, there's increased competition on the seller side. So with more options, larger supply, and lower demand via interest rates, political climate, whatever it might be, there's less buyers out there for sellers to really bid for or compete with. So that will cause things to sit on market longer. It takes longer to find that end buyer user that's going to move into that property. What I do think is kind of interesting to see after the election, maybe to follow this trend, is there's a new need. All of these people that were buying homes over the last year and a half, as interest rates had really, increased significantly from what we saw during the pandemic, were doing need-based moves, right? I need to sell for XYZ reason.
Whether it be a change of job, a divorce, getting married,
Correct.
whatever.
Sizing up, sizing down, all that kind of stuff. But the new demographic is, it's really funny how our country has become so polarized when it comes to politics. And it's only gotten, more severe with time. So
Why are you wearing a red shirt? I'm sure.
no direct correlation, and matches my shoes. So the interesting piece is, as you're watching election night, and you not only see the statewide and they call the state for a specific candidate, but when they dial in closer into the individual districts and counties and how they represent, you can see the red and the blue popping in different parts of the states. And because politics is such a emotionally charged topic for people, I'm seeing right now conversations with sellers that are listing their home because they live on a street that's predominantly the other party.
Yeah.
And they don't want to live with neighbors that are so diverse in their political views. That's considered now a need-based move. I need to move away from these people.
Yeah, I've had multiple conversations with people on both sides that consider where they live and the politics that surround them an important part of their choice, for sure.
I'm part of the purple party, Dave.
Barney?
Combining red and blue. It's whatever is best for the country and the homeowners and home sellers and realtors.
And that's where the debates start. But there should be healthy debate, right?
Correct.
All right, so 18.3% of homes listed for sale in last month, 2024, had price reductions. Ooh. Again, it says the majority of that is Tampa, Jacksonville. Those markets had a flood of new buyers that came into them during the COVID pandemic. I wouldn't read into this. What do you think realtors should do when they read stats? Some of these stats aren't necessarily good. I can tell you what I think they should do.
What should they do?
And throw it at the person across
For those of you not watching the video, he crumpled up the stats and threw them at me.
I think we have the luxury as executives to sit back and look at those things and kind of chart the course for our company, shape the way we want to talk with our agents. But for agents, if stats are the type of things that bother you or are going to shape your business, I would crumple them up and throw them out the window, right? You should be focusing on all the fundamentals, always. The agents who have stuck with their core fundamentals through every single market are the ones that we see that are our top producers over and over and over again. Our top producers aren't there because they got lucky one quarter. The ones that are there consistently are because of the fundamentals of the business. So I say crumple them up and throw them at the person closest to you.
I agree to a certain extent. Crumple them up. Don't change your business based on the stats.
Hold on, would you throw them at the person across you?
I would not. I would throw them over my shoulder. But what I do think that they're important for is knowledge and your ability to demonstrate your experience and knowledge of the marketplace that you're working in. Maybe not the statewide stats that we just went over, but dial in. There's a lot of programs out there that'll give you hyper-local stats down to a zip code, a county, a city, etc. And those are important stats for you to know if you're going to be farming that area or going into a listing.
Of course.
You have to be able to demonstrate that knowledge and expertise.
I think looking at statistics to shape your plan is definitely a positive thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of people look at it and see it's down and use it as an excuse as to why they may not be getting the results that they want.
Yeah, let's be clear. They are
That's
not
what we
an
want to be careful.
excuse.
Yeah.
Not an excuse, but
We're salespeople. We're normally not overly analytical, right? We're good salespeople or people.
I would
People
love
speak.
to have the stat on days on market, for example. You go from 20 to 60, you go from 43 to 63 days. That's an important piece to give to a seller in a conversation and set expectations. They may still think that we're in the pandemic frenzy, or they think they're going to sell in 3 weeks.
Yeah, being armed with that information to educate your buyers and sellers is critically important. So I would uncrumple that. I would read it over and over. And make sure you're armed with the information.
Not just to throw at somebody.
I just wanted to throw some at you. What are you looking at?
I'm just looking through a couple updates. We've got some current events and news articles in front of us, and I think there's a lot of things that constantly change. And some of those are the condo markets and single-family developments. You see a big trend of populations migrating from the south to the north. And then when you're as far north as like St. Lucie County in our marketplace, they're moving to other parts of the state, like the Southwest, Tampa, and Jacksonville, which intrigues me that we're seeing massive price reductions in Tampa and Jacksonville. Maybe not massive, that was the wrong word to use, but consistent price reductions.
Yeah, I think a lot of those reductions are showing an overinflationary period for those markets also. So a lot of people moving at the same time created an inflationary environment. So it's not like, that market has tanked 18%. It's just from the top.
Yeah, exactly. People chasing the market, right? As you said before.
Yeah.
So areas that we had significant hurricane season this year. We had a really significant hurricane season. How do you think that affects the local marketplace there?
It creates a temporary lull. But when I say temporary, I mean really temporary. In the past, as a real estate investor myself, I've looked into those markets. I remember 2017 and 18, I was looking really hard in the Keys market. And they had Hurricane, I think it was Ian, that went through from...
I think it was Ian.
Yeah, from Marathon all the way up to Key Largo. And I was like, this is the time to find deals. And the amount of money that surges in to that environment and that economy from people looking to work, repair, insurance money, happens really fast. So, overall, I think it has a mental impact on people, especially when you look at the poor Gulf Coast that was, had to deal with, it seemed like a storm every month, right? But as soon as they got cleaned up, moved their patio furniture back out, they were packing it up and moving it back in. Restaurants on the beach that finally got reopened from the storm a month, 2 months, 3 months, some 6 months before, boom, get flooded or filled with sand again. So that could be disheartening for a lot of people, but at the end of the day, people come together in those communities. It creates a bond, and we've seen it ourselves. We've been the boots on the ground and helped rebuild some of these communities. And I have yet to be in a community where they're like, we're going to walk away and leave it. It just hasn't happened. Even from the outside looking in, you would think that would happen. I mean, do you remember some of the storms in the Panhandle, Mexico Beach, certain areas that have just been annihilated? Even parts of the Abaco. I mean, Abaco is obviously a completely different market, but Hurricane Dorian sat on top of Treasure and certain parts of the Abacos for almost 48 hours. If there was such thing as a Category 6, it would have been a Category 6 for most of them. Thousands and thousands of people died. I think they only reported 100, 200 people, but there was thousands of undocumented workers there that were either in camps or shanty housing, disappeared. If any place, I've stood on foundations of home that were literally removed. You're just standing on the tile. You can see the outline of where the cabinets were.
Yeah.
And if any community in the world that got hit by a storm that would just disappear, I would have thought it would have been that. But people come together, it creates a bond, and then they build back. And all of these communities, as sad as the storms are, every time they build back stronger to handle a storm the next time. I mean, Florida still has a lot of really neat old school Florida properties, but a lot of those older ones that were built before hurricane code just can't withstand the continuous storms. So to answer your question, that was a very long one, but I don't think it impacts communities negatively in the long run. It certainly does
short term
with a hardship in the short term, but they all get built back better.
Yeah, and it's interesting to watch that stuff as people come together and you form new bonds, and there's new ventures that take place with that. People build their homes back stronger, more resilient, and sometimes it's kind of forcing people to do what they should have done. But sometimes cost prohibitive, right?
Yeah, I mean, look at the Keys. Back in the 70s, all the homes were built right on the coral route, right on the ground. And then I think it was in the 80s when they adopted their first, I want to say 84, 86, I could be wrong on that. They adopted their first hurricane code, and then homes had to be built on either 9 or 10-foot stilts. Now they're on like 13 or 14 foot, whatever it is. There's a big difference. It keeps adjusting. You look at some of these homes, they're concrete slabs 15 feet in the air that can withhandle almost anything you could throw at it. They look like bomb shelters, you know? So if Florida gets enough storms, eventually everything will be built back. It's kind of sad to say, but that's a natural progression. Roads are being built up higher. Neighborhoods are being built up higher. All the code, they have to bring in more fill. And home by home, literally, they build back stronger.
It's a beautiful thing to watch the human population get together during a crisis when it could be divisive, and you could have maybe an institutional company come in and purchase all of the devastation and build back for themselves. But people get together, they build back, or the community gets together and they all just push forward together as one, rolling the ball downhill.
It's a shame it takes a disaster to bring community together like that, but I'd rather bring it together than tear it apart.
100%. Well, we're resilient. Use the stats as some knowledge to show your experience, but don't let it control your business. And that's No Bull.
No bull.